Very good win for the Warriors, and joining us to talk about it is Joel Gould out of AAP. He's based out of Queensland. A big pleasure to have, great pleasure, wonderful pleasure to have Joel Gould with us. We've had him on the show before as well. Warriors with a big response at Mount Smart Stadium here in Auckland, beating the Broncos 32-16. Let's focus on that game to start with, Joel. Look, many people couldn't be blamed for really thinking that after that loss to the Titans by a club record 60 points, equaling club record defeat for the Warriors, that they're done. But no, they responded. They looked steady. They looked stable. It was a team that went out there and did everything right that they couldn't do the previous week.
Well, they did, and they looked in total control, really. I mean, the Broncos got back to within striking distance, but watching the game, I never felt like the Warriors were going to lose. I thought the halves, Tamari Martin and Chanel Harris-Tavita, were sensational. They controlled play beautifully and set up so much of the play, which was great. And the Warriors forwards did the job. So I noticed Andrew Webster afterwards said, "Let's not get too carried away." But I thought the Warriors' response was basically exactly what he was after against a Broncos side that was desperate for a win. Didn't play too bad, but they were dominated in the middle of the field, and the halves for the Warriors were sensational.
Yeah, and it felt as though, for the Broncos at least, at the start of the game, they just couldn't get much ball. They were giving up a ton of set restarts, and when that's happening, and obviously it works out really well for the Warriors, it's just so hard. Similar thing, obviously, in the second State of Origin game, when you have no ball and you're deep in your own half, you just can't get any momentum, and the Warriors took advantage.
They did, and look, the Warriors have done this before, where they've started games extremely well and let the foot off the gas, taking the foot off the pedal, so to speak. But they didn't do that this time. They played smart, and I think they played just exactly the way their coach would have wanted. And I've got to say, Tamari Martin to me is playing some beautiful football. I love it when he takes control of the play, and like he set up tries. He looked masterful out there, really. Look, Sean Johnson's obviously a great player. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure he'll be back to his best at some point. But Tamari really has stepped up a couple of times and showed that he's a footballer of real class to me.
Yeah, I've
always felt that about him, and he just proves it time and time again.
Yeah, he had a really good stint, I think, at the Cowboys when they got to the grand final one year and lost to Melbourne. And then he was actually half decent for the Broncos when he was playing a bit of fullback before Reece Walsh turned up. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because he's been around for a long time, and he's a player, as you say, with a lot of class, a lot of experience. And when he's played this year, at least in recent weeks, when he's had this combination with either Chanel Harris-Tavita or Chance Nickel-Klukstar, they're 4-0. And 3 of those wins have been against teams that have been in the top 4 either last year or the previous year, in the Panthers, the Broncos, and the Cowboys. For Andrew Webster, many would say he's got a tough decision to make. I don't know. The way I personally look at it, no, you don't. Whatever's working, keep going with it. Obviously, for 3 more weeks, they don't have Sean Johnson, but even when he comes back, I wouldn't change anything in terms of my halves if I'm the Warriors coach, Andrew Webster.
Well, it's going to be a tough decision for Andrew to make, but Tamari Martin reminds me a lot. The more I think of it and when I watch him, he reminds me a lot of Scott Prince, the fantastic halfback that used to play, obviously, won a comp with the West Tigers in 2005 and was the captain of the Titans for a long time. He's very light on his feet. He's a very similar shape as well, and he plays the game a very similar way, where he can do things. He can go himself, or he can play a really good controlling game as well. And I think he does that when he's given the responsibility. I think he really takes it and shows that is the sort of player he really is. And like you said, with the Cowboys, he had some really good players around him, but that run to the grand final, he was outstanding and showed what he's got there. And I just think he has to be in the team. Well, that's for sure. And it's just going to be what Andrew decides to do with Sean, and whether he brings him in instead of Chanel. But Tamari Martin will definitely be there, and I think he should stay in the role that he has at the moment.
Joel Gould from AAP over in Australia with us here on It's Only Sport on the platform. Joel, with the Warriors, I guess there's a bit of a benefit, and this is the case with many teams, the Broncos included, and the likes of the Cowboys and whatnot, that because it's such a tight competition, very few points separating 4th through about 14th. I think it's only 3 points. that when they drop games that they have and then they bounce back and win, they can kind of get away with it. I guess, I want to get an outsider's perspective, because here in New Zealand, we're brilliant at really only looking in the mirror and talking to ourselves, because we don't have the Australian media on our doorstep keeping us in line. But are you half glass full with this team in terms of pushing for the finals? Are they well and truly still in that bubble?
Oh, they're well and truly in the bubble. I believe they've still got 2 buys to come. The Warriors, I think they've only had 1 buy. So
you're right.
They've got 10 rounds to go, and they've got 2 buys. One thing they can't afford to do is what they have been doing. They can't afford to look good, win games away. Like they had a fantastic win in North Queensland, didn't they? They really took it to the Cowboys, beat them in Townsville. They've shown that they can do that, but because it's so tight, like you just said, they cannot afford to go back into those ways now. This has to be a lot more consistent Warriors, the sort of Warriors we saw towards the back end of last year from here on in, because they can't afford the slip-ups. If you look at the ladder, they've got Manly still 2 points ahead of them. They've got a whole lot of teams on 18 points, the Broncos being one of them, so that they can't afford to go back into that sort of being brilliant and then poor, brilliant and then poor. They can't do that anymore. That's for sure. If they want to play finals football, we need to see the Warriors string back-to-back performances together, and they need to make Mount Smart a fortress. They can't afford to lose there. They haven't been as good there as I thought they'd be, and when they go away, they need to back it up. That's the key for the Warriors. If they do that, I think they will play finals. I've still got them in my 8. I had them in my 8 at the start of the year, and I still think they'll make it. But they have to keep doing that, keep backing up their good performances with another one, and lose only occasionally from here on in.
Yeah, 2 tough games coming up. They've got the Bulldogs this coming weekend, then they've got the bye, and then the Raiders. Both of those games are on the road. What about the Broncos, Joel? What to make of them? Because the 4 straight losses, this is a team that last year, of course, made the grand final. Them along with Penrith, the 2 standout teams without a doubt, and many people going into this season thought they were the team to beat. And then they were looking all right, 7-4, a couple of losses here and there, but battling injuries, and then 4 losses in a row. Is it all just down to injuries, do you think?
I think it's partly down to injuries. I think the Broncos without Adam Reynolds can't win the competition. Let's just say that. There's no. Look, I know they're going to get him back towards the end of the season, but without Adam Reynolds, they're a totally different team. I don't think the halfback they have at the moment, Jock Madden, is the answer, and I don't think they can win with him. But the Broncos have been their own worst enemy the last 4 weeks. They've been very poor with their discipline. Their handling's been bad. And look, Walsh has only played, I think, 9 games this year, so he hasn't really played a lot of football for them. So they haven't got any continuity with their 1, 6, 7 and 9 that they had last year, where they had a dream run where they played their 1, 6, 7 and 9 for basically the whole season. So they haven't had that, and they've been found wanting. Tristan Saylor is a good footballer, but he just hasn't. He filled in last year extremely well, but he hasn't been that great the last month. I don't think Ezra Mams. I think Ezra Mams playing tough, but he's not fully fit. And I don't think Madden is a sort of halfback that the Broncos can do anything in the finals with. So that's a big problem for them. They've also got a lot of forwards out at the moment, which is making it tough on their depth. I don't think some of the guys underneath are the same quality that they had last year. They don't have Thomas Flegler, obviously. Keenan Palacia probably had his best season off the bench last year.